Welcome, Ken. Please present yourself because I think I will not find correct words now to, to tell about your experience. We are very happy and very excited to have you here. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm really honored and pleased to be able to join you. I'm in my third career, actually. My first career was actually doing things, doing fundraising, doing management, doing leadership in nonprofits, ranging from ISAC to Save the Children, Plan International, and that's where I learned much of what I know. Then the next stage was actually teaching it and consulting with NGOs around the world. I found myself starting in 1993, full-time for like 20 years, location after location, and working with some amazing and wonderful people, several of whom you will meet later on in this program in the next few weeks. Meanwhile, I've been writing what I know. And so my third career is what I'm doing now, which is writing about leadership, fundraising, planning, ethics, and basically strengthening the movement of civil society around the world. We know that companies will not do it. We know the government will not do it. It is up to us, people like us, to step up and play that leadership role. The amazing thing is that there is power in what we do. The power of dreams, because basically you people as NGO leaders are making dreams come true. It's when donors and NGOs and participants share the same dream that we make this a better world. And that's true everywhere we work. So you all know the story of the Titanic when it left England and in just a few days sank with a tremendous loss of life. Well, who was responsible? Who could have stopped it? And people immediately say, oh, well, the captain's responsible. Well, sure, the captain is responsible. The captain was asleep. He was trying to set a world record on passage from Europe to North America. He didn't care about what he should have cared about. But other people were responsible as well. The people with binoculars looking out and seeing this, strange white form in the mist. What is that? What is that? Well, let's not worry. The captain wants to go fast. The engineers who made the boat, who didn't make it very well. It wasn't watertight where it should have been watertight. The people who were supposed to run safety campaigns, escape. How do we do it? Do the lifeboats work? A lot of them didn't. So, who was responsible? Well, guess what? Well, everybody's responsible. Everybody in an NGO was responsible. Everybody on that boat was responsible. Any one of 100 people there could have stopped that disaster. So as an NGO worker, we're responsible. It's me, I, myself. Everybody is responsible. This is the model, the business model of nonprofits. And it has the vision and mission and values and results, fundraising, administration program, and the strategies and the culture. And it connects. This is the magic, the nonprofit business model. It connects donors and society, donors and recipients or beneficiaries. It's an amazing concept. And actually, in my experience, in my view, far more difficult to manage an NGO than it is to manage a business. With a business, you sell something to somebody and they're happy. If they're really happy, they come back and buy it again. With an NGO, you have two groups to deal with. You have to serve your clients, your participants, but you also have to serve your donors. So the classic model. The problem with many NGOs around the world is that they focus on the program. Executive directors are truly mission driven. They want to make progress in the program area. And sure, they recognize finance is important. But I can tell you so many stories of executive directors I've met who would say, yeah, we hired a fundraiser last year. She didn't work out, so we fired her. And I would say typically, what did you do to help? And the executive director would say, me, nothing. That's not my job. That's her job. And I would always say, no, it's your job. It's your board members' jobs. It's your program director. Everybody's job is making sure you are what I call a donor attractive organization. When I was doing a program, 3-day program in Southeast Asia with an international organization called CARE, there were about 50 people in the process. And I was talking about this, about the importance of fundraising throughout the organization. And a field worker, somebody whose job was helping communities develop, suddenly stood up and said, oh, I get it. You know, no money, no fun, no money, no program. And oh, I get it. Fundraising is my job. And he meant by that two things. Fundraising was his responsibility to the extent he could help it. And it was also the salary that paid his way. So that was an insight. A incredibly successful fundraiser and executive director in the Netherlands, Hein Kolk, had this view that our job is not to meet the needs of donors, is to exceed them. And he had evidence because something like 90% of the country knew about the organization. And I believe it was close to 50% of all families were donors to that particular organization. So he knew something that was really important, to exceed the expectations of donors. There are two versions of organizational structure, the traditional on the one side and the better one on the other side. On the one side, you have the traditional one where the executive board is important, the executive director is the really most important person, and that's true. And then there's the staff. The other approach is where an organization understands that the people who are in contact with external stakeholders are all extremely important, maybe most important. When I've been an executive director, I realized the people who were talking to donors, who were working with partners, they knew things before I knew it. They knew things before researchers even knew what questions to ask. So one of the questions for you is, which kind of organization do you run? The executive director dominated, or the one where you were respecting and listening to other people? Now, for sure, the executive director has contacts with external people, with donors. The board members have contacts with external people, and those are all very important as well. I want to talk about two organizations. This was a very large one, Plan International USA, where I was brought on board as executive director in 1982. And the organization had 10 years of no growth. Sure, it was doing well. It had $10 million of income. That was not bad, but they were not growing and things were not going well internally. People were criticizing each other. My job was to help the organization grow. And as you see here, in 3 years, we doubled it to $20 million. And then another 3 years, added another 10 million. So the growth was from 10 million to $30 million. How did we do it? We did it by having everybody step up as leaders throughout the organization. And here's another completely opposite, very small organization. And when my wife and I became involved with it in 1992, it was a very small organization. The culture was negative. There was no planning, participation. Who would want to go to a meeting where everything was negative? Not many activities, no influence, virtually no income. We implemented a very straightforward strategic planning process that involved everybody in the activity. People would come to a meeting and say, the trouble is the police are not paying attention to our neighborhood, or the sanitation team is not cleaning up here. And we would say, okay, get over in a corner with 3 or 4 or 5 other people, make a plan. 5 things we want to do. What is the vision of our neighborhood? Well, to be the best neighborhood in the city. What is our plan to get there? And they would have 5 or 6 things. So the culture became positive. People came to say, yes, we can make a difference. And we developed out of those meetings a 3-year strategic plan, a lot of participation, many activities. Meetings became reports on progress. One of my favorite experiences was when the mayor of the city called me and said, Ken, I hear you're having really good meetings, a lot of people. Can I come and participate? And I said, no, not unless you bring your sanitation manager, because we have a plan of action to improve the cleanness, the sanitation of our neighborhood, and we want you to work with us. And they did. And the mayor came with sanitation manager, another meeting with the police chief, another meeting with the fire person, and we went through the whole functions. Within 1 year, hundreds of members, $200,000 of income just in 12 months. At that point, my wife and I left for work in Switzerland, and I got a letter, 2-3 years later from the NGO, West Broadway Neighborhood Association, saying, hey, Ken, we're still using all of these things about the positive culture and the long-term plan and open participation. And guess what? We had income last year of over $1 million. And then a couple of years later, it's several $1 million. So this approach of having leaders step up and having the organization really understand fundraising was successful in a very small organization like this one, and in a very large organization like the one I showed you just a minute ago. So there are a lot of stories about myths of leaders. The idea that actually I grew up with, leaders are born. Yeah, the great leaders of the world. Wow, they're born. And not everyone can be a leader. It's something really special. And it's people at the top who are leaders. That's another thing I heard a lot. And they lead by their force of personality, and wow, they are powerful. And they deliver results. And who cares about values? Leaders are people who get things done. And then the one I heard then, and I'm sure you hear today, men are better leaders than women. And what else do leaders do? These are the myths. All of these are not true. These are myths in every country ever I've worked in. And by now, in my work and my travel, I've been to more than 100 countries. And everywhere I see, these are the truths that you see on the screen, that leaders learn to be leaders through experience. And that's why everybody can be a leader. Everybody can step up. Yeah, that's true. And leaders are needed at all levels of an organization. At the bigger organization I mentioned earlier, we had a staff team of support staff completely empowered to change the way we did our work. And they led it, they decided on it, and they made changes. And so at the end of that organization, when we had tripled the money to $30 million income, we actually were able to do it with fewer staff because we improved the administration so much. Not what I did, but it's what the people who were actually involved. They knew more than I did. There's a real lesson there. So good leaders lead by inspiration and letting people lead. Yeah, they motivate people to do more. They create conditions so that managers get the results. For me, the difference between leader and manager is the leader sets a vision, excites people, motivates people. The manager is the one who focuses on the coming days and the months and gets things done, gets results. And most of us in NGOs actually are leader and manager, but it's important to know which one you are in a particular meeting. So good leaders are based on values. And I look around the world today, government leaders, I'm not going to mention any countries, but there are government leaders who are just totally failures because they're not leading. They're selfish. They have no values. And that's true in so many companies where the only motivation is profit, profit above all. And I remember companies in the 1960s when I first got involved with talking with corporations, they cared about the world. They wanted to be responsible for their employees. But something's happened. And maybe it's NGOs who have to lead the way by showing the way. Good leaders is based on values. Women in the nonprofit world, in my experience, are at least as good, sometimes better, than the others who are leading. And what else does a leader do? Coach, mentor, develop other good leaders. The best leader develops good successors. So 6 simple steps that I've seen over the years that are really very important. This is a way to get your own leadership and that of other people to move up higher, to be more effective. Networking. Why is networking important? Well, then you have a team. You have people to follow you. Okay. Seeing what needs to be done. Eyes wide open. Observing. Wondering. What can be done? And then identifying it. The third is to seize the opportunity. It's not enough to have followers or enough to see what needs to be done. You have to move to the third level of seizing the opportunity. And then, we all hesitate. It's scary to be a leader. So step up. Don't hesitate. You'll have roadblocks. If you don't have roadblocks, you're not aiming high enough. If you don't have roadblocks, you're not seeing what needs to be done. So you have to persist. And then the last one is to run meetings well and to set a model for everyone else in your organization to run meetings well. Why is that important? Because people respect it. They really like it when they see a meeting that operates well, that involves everybody in the discussion, that reaches a conclusion, that is in fact a productive meeting. And over the years, I find that I'm so often asked to be a leader in an organization or an association because I run meetings well. I start on time, I end on time. People think ending on time is maybe the best thing there is. And meetings are not just formal sessions. They're when 2 or 3 people come together to have a chat. That's a meeting. Okay, these 6 simple steps are realistic that everybody can take. And they have to be based on positive values. So 3 concepts that came up in a leadership program that I was involved in Ukraine, and the 3 big issues that people identified in that group: nurturing, being open, and strategy. And I just love these charts because they say so much. So in my book, one of the principles of fundraising that I talk about is a new hierarchy of human caring. And it's based on Maslow, but it's really much simpler. And we're seeing that acted out in many ways today with the crisis of health. But the first level of caring is obviously care for yourself. We have to take care of ourselves. The second is to take care of our families and those who are close to us. And this happens in 95, 98% of the cases, almost always. But people do well in these 2. The third level up is caring and helping others who are in need and our planet. And frankly, we're not doing very well at that level. In the United States, the caring for others has been stuck historically for generations at a embarrassingly small 2% of income is the average given to charity around locally, nationally, and globally by Americans. It's not good enough. But the highest level, and we're seeing this acted out in so many ways today, are those who help others help others. And as NGO workers, this is where you are. This is your job. You help others. You help them make their dreams come true. So you can be proud of that. And health workers are helping others, help others by enabling them to live. And they're taking their own lives at risk. And NGO people are sacrificing a lot to do the work that they do. Leadership attributes, here we go. The vision is powerful. It's all about change. This is what leaders do. They change, otherwise they're not leading. Manage or implement. leaders change. High goals, yes. Motivation, communication, supporting, but always based in values and showing good judgment so that you're careful about what you do. So the 6 simple steps, again, network, see what needs to be done, step up to do it, persist, and run meetings well. These are things that will make it really happen. Perseverance. Professor Cantor at Harvard wrote a book with 7 key characteristics of leadership. Kaleidoscope thinking, never giving up, a lot of things like this. And then she wrote another book about 10 years later. She said, no, I was wrong. There's only one characteristic that's important. The key characteristic of leadership is persistence. And from my point of view, this is wonderful news, and I agree with her. You control how persistent you are, and you enable other people to be persistent. I'll take you on a journey. I hope this has been a productive journey. And let me just close with a comment about other things you could be doing. Each of you as an NGO leader can also be an association leader. I've seen over my life that when I worked with other NGOs, often competitors, and we share together, we become stronger. In one case, there was some very bad publicity about some organizations, one of which was one I was working at. So instead of denying it, I called together my 5 big competitors, people who, people I hated because they were my competitors. But I said, come on, let's get together and decide what to do. So we met, and in one day developed a code, very good code, of advertising ethics, and said basically, we learned from the criticism, we changed, and we're going to do better. Each of us went back to our bosses and said, hey, we have this new code. Everybody else is going to approve it, so we've got to approve it. And they did. All 6 of us approved it. So we went out to the media the next, 3 days later and said, hey, we heard you. We've changed. Here is our new code. We are going to be different. Thank you. And the media coverage went from criticism to, wow, these are really good organizations. But that was just the beginning, because I learned that my enemies were, in fact, actually, they were nice people. They were motivated with good things. Competitors, yes, but good people also, yes. So I said, hey, let's meet again. Now let's talk. And we organized that. And guess who chaired it? Yes, I did. Just before I left for the meeting, I told my boss where I was going, and he said, oh my God, why are you doing that? Well, you can go, but just don't say anything. So I went, and that's what I said as I opened the meeting. I'm not supposed to say anything. And everybody laughed, because that's exactly what they heard from their bosses. We met, the 6 of us, once or twice a year for about the next, I think, 3 years. We shared so much with each other. Things that worked, things that failed, things that we never wanted to do again, things that we were hoping to do, and oh my gosh, you've done it? Wow, I can do it too. And 10 years later, after I'd moved on, I look back at the income of those 6 organizations and compared it with the average income of organizations in that field. And those 6 all doubled the growth, and in some cases tripled the growth of the average. They became fundraising leaders because they learned from each other. I challenge you not only to be a good leader yourself, but also to be a good leader of the rest of your staff so they can lead in your organization. And then finally, I challenge you to bring together your competitors in your city, in your country, in your sector of work, and say, let's share. We're going to become more powerful. We will do a better job. And when the government hears you coming together, it will be more responsive. So I encourage you to lead in a most powerful way. I wish I had more time. I wish you had more time, but this is just a really quick overview of what I talk about in my book, Make a Better World, and it's leadership for fundraising success. Wow. So where are we now? Thank you so much for your attention.